The smell thick and acrid hit Detective Sergeant Mark Kelly the moment the warehouse roller door creaked open. It wasn't just the stale stench of cheap tobacco, it was something metallic, almost sickly sweet, clinging to the air like a shroud. Inside, stacked to the corrugated iron ceiling, were thousands upon thousands of cartons. Illicit cigarettes, yes, but also vapes, luridly colored, shimmering in the weak light filtering through the grimy skylights. Mark surveyed the scene, a grim line across his face. This wasn't some back alley bust in Western Sydney. This was a legitimate industrial unit in Laverton North, and it was full. So full, in fact, that they had nowhere else to put it. The official police storage facilities across Victoria and beyond were already overflowing. The sheer scale of it was almost laughable if it wasn't so deeply concerning. Meet Mark Kelly, a veteran of the Victorian police force who'd seen his fair share of organised crime. He worked out of the Melbourne CBD, but his patch stretched across the sprawling suburbs, from the working-class enclaves of Broadmeadows to the quiet, tree-lined streets of Blackburn. Mark was a family man, a keen Essendon supporter, and someone who believed passionately in a fair go for everyone, a principle he saw eroded daily by the insidious creep of illicit trades. His team comprised a mix of seasoned officers and fresh faces, all dedicated to battling the increasingly sophisticated networks bringing illegal goods into Australia. They weren't chasing small-time crooks anymore. These were well-funded operations, often linked to other serious crimes. On any given day, Mark might be coordinating with the Australian Border Force at the Port of Melbourne, or working alongside local councils and Consumer Affairs Victoria to raid dodgy convenience stores selling unregulated products. This particular seizure, however, was a direct result of intelligence gathered over months, painting a picture of a major distribution hub feeding the black market across the entire eastern seaboard. The story really began not with Mark but with a series of seemingly unrelated incidents dotted across Melbourne. In Preston, a small corner shop previously known for its friendly service started selling packets of cigarettes at prices that seemed too good to be true. Down in Cranbourne, a new vape store popped up, its windows plastered with gaudy advertisements, drawing in teenagers with brightly packaged unlabeled products. Over several months in late 2024, local police and council officers received a steady trickle of complaints. Health concerns were paramount. Parents worried about their kids buying unregulated vapes with no ingredient lists and unknown origins. Business owners trying to do the right thing and pay their taxes complained vociferously to their local MPs and New South Wales Fair Trading about being undercut by competitors who didn't play by the rules. The economic impact was undeniable, hitting legitimate businesses hard and robbing the federal government of significant excise tax revenue, money that would otherwise flow into Medicare, roads and schools. It was a tip-off, an anonymous call made to the police, that first linked these disparate threads. The caller, a former delivery driver, spoke of nightly shipments arriving at a warehouse in Laverton North, a suburb nestled among industrial parks and major freight routes. He described pallets piled high with generic-looking boxes unloaded with suspicious haste marks. Team initiated surveillance. For weeks they watched, discreetly documenting vehicles, individuals and patterns of activity. They saw vans registered to shell companies collecting goods late at night, fanning out across the city and even interstate. They observed the meticulous, almost clinical behaviour of the operators, no overt displays of wealth, just quiet efficiency. The scale of the operation slowly became apparent. They weren't just dealing with a few rogue traders, this was an organized syndicate exploiting the demand for cheap tobacco and the burgeoning market for unregulated vapes. The team gathered enough evidence to secure a warrant on a crisp autumn morning in May 2025. Mark and his officers moved in. The raid was textbook swift, efficient and overwhelming. The individuals present were apprehended without incident. But the sheer volume of product they uncovered was anything but typical. The seized goods, thousands of kilograms of illicit tobacco and vapes, presented an immediate, practical problem: where to put it all. Police facilities from suburban stations to larger regional depots were already strained. Victoria Police, like their counterparts in New South Wales and Queensland, operate under strict guidelines regarding the storage of seized evidence and contraband. These aren't just any old sheds, they need to be secure, temperature controlled and inventoried meticulously for potential court cases. The sheer weight and bulk of this Laverton North haul, however, pushed the system to breaking point. It highlighted a national crisis that had been quietly escalating. In inquiries before federal parliamentary committees, representatives from the Australian Federal Police (AFP) and state police forces had repeatedly voiced their concerns. They testified that storage facilities were at capacity and the cost of destruction was astronomical. Imagine trying to destroy thousands of kilograms of vapes, many requiring manual dismantling of their cartridges, batteries, and heating elements before they could even be processed as waste. The AFP noted that destruction costs could be as high as $13 per kilogram for vapes alone. This wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a significant drain on police resources, diverting funds and personnel away from other critical crime-fighting efforts. The public often doesn't realize the operational challenges faced by police once an arrest is made and evidence is seized. The legal framework around contraband, its storage and its ultimate disposal is complex. Balancing chain of custody requirements for future prosecution against the immediate need to remove dangerous or illicit goods from circulation. This case, unfolding in the industrial heartland of Melbourne, laid bare the hidden costs of Australia's booming black market. The individuals apprehended during the raid faced a litany of charges under both federal and state laws. These included offences under the Tobacco Plain Packaging Act 2011, the Competition and Consumer Act 2010 specifically relating to the Australian consumer law, provisions concerning product safety and misleading representations, and various state-level health and safety regulations. The prosecution argued that the syndicate deliberately circumvented excise duties, evaded taxes and endangered public health by distributing unregulated products. They presented the mountains of seized goods as evidence along with financial records, shipping manifests and the surveillance footage meticulously compiled by Mark's team. The defense, on the other hand, attempted to minimize the scale of the operation, portraying their clients as small-time operators caught in a gray area, rather than a sophisticated criminal enterprise. They argued about the chain of custody for some of the earlier smaller seizures, trying to sow doubt. However, the sheer volume of the Laverton North haul, coupled with the detailed financial analyses showing millions of dollars in undeclared income, painted an undeniable picture. The case, heard in the Melbourne Magistrates Court and eventually escalating to the County Court, was complex, involving expert testimony on tobacco excise, public health impacts, and the structure of organized crime. Ultimately, after months of legal wrangling, the primary figures behind the syndicate were convicted. They received significant custodial sentences reflecting the seriousness of their offenses and the Financial damage inflicted on the Australian economy. The businesses involved were hit with substantial fines and the seized assets were forfeited to the state. The illicit products, after all evidence was secured, were finally sent for destruction, a slow and costly process still ongoing months later. This case, playing out across Melbourne's industrial fringes, serves as a stark